Story 1: The Chainsaw Vigil. The rural outskirts of Machias stretched into a desolate patchwork of fields and dense pine forests, where the nearest neighbor was a mile away, and the wind carried the scent of salt from the distant coast mingled with the rot of fallen leaves. Caleb Tanner, an 18-year-old with a lean frame and a tangle of dark hair that fell into his hazel eyes, had lived in this isolation his whole life, the solitude a familiar cloak since his parents' divorce 5 years ago. His mother, Rachel, a night nurse with tired lines etched into her face, worked long shifts at the Machias hospital, leaving Caleb and his younger sister, Lily, 10, to fend for themselves in their weathered farmhouse, a 2-story relic with a sagging porch and windows that rattled like old bones. The house sat alone, its nearest companion, a sprawling oak that loomed over the yard, its branches clawing at the sky. That Friday evening in late October, the air was crisp, the sky bruising purple as the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows across the fields. Caleb and Lily had been playing outside, a rare moment of normalcy after weeks of school stress and Rachel's exhaustion. Lily, with her freckled cheeks and a mop of blonde curls, chased fireflies with a jar, her laughter a bright note in the fading light, while Caleb tossed a baseball against the barn wall, the thwack a steady rhythm. The farmhouse was their refuge, its creaks and groans a lullaby, but the isolation gnawed at Caleb sometimes, a quiet that felt too deep, too watchful, especially since the divorce had left them with no close neighbors to call in a pinch. Around 7:00 p.m., Rachel's phone rang, the shrill tone cutting through the dusk. She stepped onto the porch, her voice tight as she listened, then sighed. "I have to go in. Emergency at the hospital. Back in an hour." Caleb nodded, used to her absences, and Lily pouted, but didn't argue. Rachel locked the front door, a habit born of caution in their lonely stretch, and left a note taped to the glass. "Back by 8. Stay safe. Love, Mom." She drove off in her rusty sedan, the taillights fading into the fog that was creeping in from the coast, and Caleb and Lily wandered toward the treehouse, a rickety structure in the oak, built by their dad before he left, its wooden planks weathered but sturdy. They climbed up, the ladder creaking under their weight, and settled in. The treehouse a fortress of childhood memories, its walls scratched with their initials. Lily pulled out a flashlight, its beam dancing across the planks, and they played a game of I Spy, her giggles a shield against the night's growing chill. About 15 minutes later, as the fog thickened, Caleb glanced out the small window and froze. A man was walking down the road, a lone figure against the gray, his silhouette jagged, something heavy in his hands. "That's weird," he muttered, his voice low, and Lily peered out, her breath catching. "Who "Who's that?" she whispered, and Caleb shrugged, unease prickling his neck. People didn't wander this far out. Not at night, not alone. The man stopped directly in front of the house, the fog swirling around him, and Caleb's blood ran cold as the sound hit. A chainsaw's growl, sharp and guttural, the blade sparking as he yanked the cord. The man stood there, the chainsaw idling, its teeth glinting in the moonlight, and stared at the house, his face obscured by the fog, his posture rigid, like a hunter sizing up prey. He didn't move, didn't speak, just watched. The chainsaw's hum, a menacing pulse, the minutes stretching into forever. Lily clutched Caleb's arm, her small hand trembling, and he whispered, "Stay down," pulling her to the floor, their bodies flat against the wood, the treehouse's height a fragile shield. The chainsaw's roar faded, the man turning slowly, his silhouette retreating down the road, the fog swallowing him as if he'd never been. Caleb's heart pounded, his breath shallow, and Lily's whimpers were muffled against his sleeve. They lay there, the night pressing in, the house a dark silhouette below, its locked door a thin promise of safety. Rachel's note fluttered in the breeze, a beacon they couldn't reach, and the silence that followed was worse. Too heavy, too still, like the woods were holding their breath. Caleb's mind raced. Who was he? What did he want? A prank, maybe. A kid with a stolen saw. But the stare, the intent, felt wrong. A predator's gaze that lingered too long. They waited, the flashlight's beam dimming, the oak's branches creaking in the wind, until headlights pierced the fog. Rachel's sedan, its engine a lifeline. Caleb peeked out, saw her park, and they scrambled down, the ladder trembling under their haste. "Mom!" he shouted, running to her, Lily clinging to his side, their words tumbling out. The man, the chainsaw, the stare. Rachel's face paled, her nurse's calm cracking, and she ushered them inside, locking the door, her hands shaking as she checked the windows. "Stay here," she said, grabbing a kitchen knife, her eyes darting to the road. The fog a wall of uncertainty. The night stretched on, the house creaking, the fog pressing, and Caleb couldn't shake it. The man's presence, the chainsaw's growl, the way the woods seemed to watch. He didn't tell anyone else, not his friends, not the cops, the fear too raw, too personal. But as he lay in bed, the knife under his pillow, he heard it, a faint hum, a chainsaw's echo, drifting from the fields, and Macias's isolation felt like a trap. The man a shadow that wouldn't leave, a riddle wrapped in fog that promised more than a prank. Caleb Tanner didn't sleep that night after Rachel returned. The farmhouse on the outskirts of Macias, Maine, a fortress of locked doors and drawn curtains. The fog outside a gray wall that pressed against the windows like a living thing. The chainsaw's growl still echoed in his mind. The man's silhouette burned into his vision. His stare a weight that lingered long after the headlights of Rachel's sedan had pierced the darkness. Lily clung to him on the living room couch, her small frame trembling, her blonde curls damp with sweat. The kitchen knife Rachel held a cold comfort as she paced, her nurse's calm fraying at the edges. The house creaked, the oak outside groaning in the wind, and Caleb's hand rested on a baseball bat he'd grabbed from the hall closet, the wood slick with his nervous grip. Rachel called the police, her voice tight as she explained. A man with a chainsaw standing in front of their house, staring for what felt like hours. Deputy Hargrove, a gruff man with a gray mustache and a smoker's cough, arrived within the hour, his cruiser's lights cutting through the fog, the beam sweeping the yard. He searched. No tracks, no sign. The road empty. The chainsaw a phantom in the mist. Could have been a prank, Hargrove said, his tone skeptical, but his eyes lingered on the woods, where the pines stood thick and silent. Keep the doors locked. Call if he comes back. Rachel nodded, but Caleb saw the doubt in her face, the same doubt that gnawed at him, a shadow that wouldn't lift. The next day, Saturday, the fog lingered, a heavy blanket that turned the fields into a void, the oak's branches dripping with mist. Caleb stayed inside, helping Lily with a puzzle, the TV droning with a cartoon's cheerful noise. But his eyes kept darting to the windows, the road beyond a gray scar. Rachel worked a double shift, leaving them alone again, and Caleb locked the doors, the bat by his side, the knife on the counter. At 7:00 p.m., as dusk fell, he heard it, a faint hum, a chainsaw's echo, drifting from the fields, low and menacing. Lily froze, her puzzle piece slipping, and Caleb grabbed the bat, peering out the kitchen window. The fog was thicker now, but a shape moved, a man, tall and broad, the chainsaw in his hands, its blade glinting as he approached the house. "Stay here," Caleb whispered, his voice rough, and stepped onto the porch, the cold biting his skin, the bat raised. The man stopped 20 yards out, the chainsaw idling, its growl a pulse in the night. His face was obscured by the fog, but his stance was rigid, his head tilting slightly, like a hunter sizing up prey. "Who are you?" Caleb shouted, his voice cracking, but the man didn't answer, just stared, the chainsaw's hum growing louder, the fog swirling around him like a cloak. Caleb's heart pounded, the bat heavy, and he took a step forward, the porch creaking under his weight, when the man's head snapped up, his eyes catching the porch light. Black, empty, a void that chilled Caleb to his core. The chainsaw roared, the man lunging, and Caleb swung, the bat connecting with air as the figure dodged, a blur in the mist, the blade slashing inches from his legs. He stumbled back, tripping over the porch steps, the bat falling, and Lily screamed from inside, her voice a knife through the night. The man paused, the chainsaw idling, and laughed, a low, guttural sound, inhuman, echoing off the trees, the fog amplifying its madness. Caleb scrambled up, grabbing the bat, and ran inside, slamming the door, locking it, his hands shaking as he pulled Lily into his arms. The chainsaw's roar faded, the man retreating into the fog, but the laugh lingered, a promise in the dark. Rachel came home at midnight, her face pale as Caleb and Lily spilled the story, the bat still in his hand, the porch scratched where the chainsaw had grazed. She called Hargrove again, but the deputy found nothing. No footprints, no blade marks, just the fog and the silence. A drifter, maybe, Hargrove muttered, but his voice lacked conviction, his flashlight beam trembling as it swept the yard. Rachel insisted they stay with her sister in town, and they packed that night, the farmhouse a tomb behind them, the oak a sentinel watching them go. But the move didn't end it. In the new apartment, a cramped unit above a laundromat, Caleb heard it. Nights later, a hum, faint, a chainsaw's echo, drifting through the walls, the fog outside a mirror to Machias's dread. Lily woke screaming, seeing the man's shadow in her dreams, and Caleb kept the bat close, checking locks, jumping at every sound, the creak of pipes, the rustle of leaves. Rachel quit her job, her hands shaking as she cooked, the isolation of the farmhouse a wound that wouldn't heal. One evening, peering out, Caleb saw it, a figure, tall and broad, standing across the street, the chainsaw's blade glinting, its laugh a whisper on the wind. He didn't tell Rachel, didn't call the cops, just watched, the fog a shroud, and knew Machias's shadow had followed, a chainsaw vigil that wouldn't let them go. Story 2, The Kitchen Intruder. In the quiet suburb of Bangor, where the streets were lined with maple trees and the nights carried the faint hum of the Penobscot River, Emily Carter lived in a modest 2-story house on Elmwood Lane, a place of neatly trimmed lawns and mailboxes shaped like little barns. At 26, Emily was a freelance graphic designer, her days spent sketching logos at the kitchen table, her nights curled up with her golden retriever, Jasper, a loyal companion with a bark that echoed through the house. Her boyfriend, Ryan, a mechanic with grease-stained hands and a gentle smile, lived across town, often staying over on weekends. But that night, June 4th, 2015, she was alone, the house a cocoon of solitude, under a sky bruised with the promise of rain. The evening had started innocently enough, the air warm and sticky, the kind of summer night that clung to the skin. Emily sat in her bedroom, the glow of her laptop screen casting soft shadows on the walls. A YouTube video about Annabelle's Paws, a pet care channel, playing softly as she sketched a logo for a local bakery. Jasper sprawled at her feet, his golden fur rising and falling with each breath, his presence a comfort in the empty house. Ryan had called earlier, his voice crackling through the phone. "I'm working late, babe. Big job at the shop. You okay there?" Emily had laughed. "I've got Jasper. We'll be fine." But as the video hit the 18-minute mark, a sound cut through the quiet. A sharp slam, like a kitchen cabinet closing hard. The noise echoing through the house. Emily froze, her pencil hovering over the sketch pad, her heart kicking in her chest. Jasper's ears perked, his head lifting, a low growl rumbling in his throat as he stared toward the bedroom door. She paused the video, the silence that followed heavy, pressing against her ears, the house creaking as if it, too, held its breath. "Just the wind," she whispered, but the words felt hollow, the kitchen too far for a draft to reach. She grabbed her phone, dialing Ryan, her voice shaking as she explained. "Something slammed in the kitchen. I'm freaked out." Ryan's tone shifted. "Stay put, Em. Don't go check. Could be nothing, but just wait. I'll call the cops if you hear it again." They debated for a few minutes, Ryan's voice a lifeline. But then it came, a second slam, louder, the same cabinet, a deliberate thud that sent Jasper to his feet, his growl deepening, his eyes fixed on the door. Emily's breath hitched, her grip on the phone tightening, and she whispered, "I'm going to look." Ryan protested, but she was already moving, her bare feet silent on the hardwood as she crept to the bedroom door. Jasper at her side, his hackles raised. The hallway was dark, the kitchen light off, the house a maze of shadows cast by the moon filtering through the windows. She stepped into the kitchen, the linoleum cold, and flicked on the light. Nothing. The cabinets closed, the counter empty, the sink dripping with a steady plink, plink, plink. Jasper growled again, his gaze darting to the corner, then back to her, his tail stiff, his body tense. Emily's heart pounded, the silence too thick, the air too heavy, and she backed toward the bedroom, her eyes scanning every shadow, every corner. "Nothing," she told Ryan, her voice a whisper, but the unease stayed, a cold knot in her gut. She closed the bedroom door, locking it, the other door to the hall, without a lock, a vulnerability she couldn't fix. Jasper stayed by her side, his growls intermittent, his ears twitching at sounds she couldn't hear. She sat on the bed, the sketchpad forgotten, the phone on speaker, Ryan's voice a steady hum. "Stay safe, Em. I'm calling the cops now." Minutes later, footsteps echoed, soft, deliberate, coming from the hall, a slow tread that sent a shiver down her spine. Jasper's growl turned to a snarl, his body rigid, and Emily's breath caught as she grabbed the phone, whispering, "Ryan, I hear footsteps near the bedroom." His voice tightened. "I've got the cops on speed dial. Hide, Em, now." She slid off the bed, Jasper following, and opened the closet door, slipping inside with the dog. The door shut tight, the darkness a suffocating weight. She crouched, her back against the wall. Jasper pressed to her side, his warmth a small comfort, and told Ryan, "I'm in the closet, call them." The footsteps grew closer, a steady rhythm on the hardwood, stopping just outside the bedroom door. The police called her phone, the ring a jarring sound, and she answered, her voice a whisper as they asked questions. Address, situation, safety. Then a noise, sharp, unsettling, like a joint popping, a crack as if someone's jaw had unstuck, right in front of the closet door. Jasper's snarl turned to a whimper, his body shaking, and Emily's heart stopped, the sound echoing in the dark, the presence on the other side a palpable threat. The police were close, sirens faint in the distance, but the crack came again, closer, as if whatever stood there was leaning in, listening, waiting. Emily Carter crouched in the darkness of her bedroom closet in Bangor, Maine, her golden retriever, Jasper, pressed against her trembling legs, his whimpers a soft counterpoint to the sharp crack that echoed just beyond the door. The phone pressed to her ear, the police dispatcher's voice a lifeline. "Stay calm, ma'am. We're 2 minutes out." But the sound, like a joint popping or a jaw unhinging, sent a shiver down her spine. The air in the cramped space, thick with a cold that sank into her bones. Ryan's voice, faint through the speaker, urged, "Hold on, Em. They're coming." But the presence outside the closet door was palpable, a weight that pressed against the wood, a shadow she couldn't see, but felt with every fiber of her being. The crack came again, closer, a wet snap that seemed to seep through the door, and Jasper's growl turned to a whine, his body shaking as he pressed tighter against her. Emily's breath hitched, her hand clutching the knife she'd grabbed from the nightstand, the blade cold and useless in the dark. The bedroom door, locked but flimsy, rattled slightly as if something tested it, and the footsteps, soft, deliberate, moved again, circling, the hardwood creaking under an unseen weight. The police's sirens grew louder, a faint wail in the distance, but the closet felt like a coffin, the walls closing in, the fog outside her window a mirror to the dread inside. "They're almost here," the dispatcher said, but the crack sounded once more, right at the door's edge, and Emily stifled a scream, her heart a drum in her chest. The sirens peaked, tires screeching in the driveway, and Emily heard the front door burst open, boots stomping through the house, voices shouting, "Bangor PD! Clear!" The closet door flew open and she stumbled out, Jasper barking, into the arms of Officer Dunn, a young cop with wide eyes, his flashlight sweeping the room. The bedroom was empty, the door shut as she'd left it, the bathroom light on, but the air was cold, the silence heavy. Downstairs, she joined her grandparents, who'd arrived with the police, their faces pale as they hugged her. Ryan's voice on the phone, a frantic relief. The cops searched. Deputy Hargrove, gruff and gray, leading the team, finding the side door unlocked, just as her grandma had left it when they'd gone out earlier. "No sign of forced entry," Hargrove said, his tone skeptical, "but the place feels off." Emily stayed outside, the night air biting, Jasper at her side, his hackle still raised, until Ryan arrived, his mechanic's hands smudged with oil as he pulled her into a hug. The police left, their report a formality, but the unease lingered, a cold knot in her gut. That night, at Ryan's place, she couldn't shake it. The slams, the footsteps, the crack, and begged him to stay awake. He held her, his voice steady. "It was nothing, Em. Just the wind. Maybe a raccoon." But she knew better. The house had felt alive, the presence too real, and Jasper's reaction confirmed it. The next day, Emily returned with Ryan, the house quiet, the fog lifting to reveal a gray morning. She checked the kitchen, cabinets intact, no marks, but a faint smell lingered, metallic and damp, like blood and earth. In the bedroom, the closet door creaked as she opened it, and a chill ran through her. A single footprint, small and muddy, pressed into the carpet, too small for a man, too deliberate for an animal. Ryan frowned. That wasn't there last night, and they called Hargrove, who returned with a team. The footprint led to the basement, a damp space with cobwebs and a rusted furnace, where they found a trap door hidden under a rug, its hinges rusted but unlocked. Hargrove pried it open, the air rushing out cold and stale, and descended with a flashlight, Emily and Ryan waiting above. A scream echoed up, Hargrove's, and he stumbled back, pale, his flashlight trembling. "Get out," he rasped. "Now." They fled, the cops sealing the house, but Hargrove later admitted, "Something down there. Tracks, blood, a nest of bones, human maybe. We're calling in a hazmat team." Emily's blood ran cold. The house had hidden a secret, a presence that wasn't human, a shadow that had watched her. They moved to a motel, the house condemned, but the nightmares followed. Slams, footsteps, the crack, a figure in the basement, its eyes black, its mouth a void, whispering her name. Ryan stayed close, but late at night, she'd wake to a tap at the window, the fog outside a mirror to that night. the presence a weight she couldn't shake. Bangor's quiet streets held their ghosts, and Elmwood Lane had left its mark. A kitchen intruder, a trapdoor's secret, a terror that lingered, waiting to claim her again. Story 3. The Skin Merchant's Visit. Portland was a city of cobblestone charm and shadowed alleys, where the fog rolled off Casco Bay and turned the nights into a labyrinth of whispers, the air thick with the scent of salt and the distant cry of gulls. Ethan Brooks, a 16-year-old with a lanky frame, a mop of black hair that fell into his eyes, and a restless curiosity, lived in a modest 2-story house on Oak Street, a quiet cul-de-sac where the streetlights flickered and the neighbors kept to themselves. He was a tech-savvy kid, good with computers, spending his summer days tinkering with code and his nights exploring the dark corners of the internet, a thrill seeker drawn to the forbidden. His parents, Mark and Susan, both teachers, were often at school meetings, leaving Ethan and his golden retriever, Max, to guard the house, the silence a canvas for his digital adventures. It was a humid July afternoon in 2016, the sun beating down through the curtains, the house warm despite the open windows, when Ethan stumbled upon the Tor browser. He'd heard about it from YouTubers narrating creepy stories, tales of the deep web, sites selling drugs, weapons, and worse. His friends at school, Chris, Sam, and Tara, egging him on with dares. Ethan, always the weird one of the group, loved sharing the strangest finds, his Skype group chat a hub of gasps and laughter. He downloaded Tor that day, the click a spark in his mind, the worst decision he'd ever make, though he didn't know it yet. The browser opened a new world, onion links, untraceable, a digital abyss, and Ethan dove in, his heart racing with the thrill of the unknown. For a week, he explored sites with grainy photos of guns, forums buzzing with coded threats, marketplaces offering pills with cryptic names. He sent links to his friends on Skype, their reactions a mix of awe and disgust. The group chat alive with emojis and half-joking warnings. Then, one sultry Saturday afternoon, with Max sprawled at his feet and the house empty, he found it, a site labeled Skin Crafters, Onion, its interface crude but chilling, selling products made of human skin, cheaper and more gruesome than the infamous human leather. .com. There were jackets, gloves, belts, even wallets, the images grainy but clear, stitched leather with veins visible, the prices in Bitcoin a taunt to his curiosity. Ethan copied the link, pasted it into the Skype group, typing, "Check this out, guys. Sick stuff," and leaned back, ready to log off. As he moved the cursor, a chat box popped up in the bottom right corner, The text stark. Thanks for sharing the website. Ethan froze, his breath catching, figuring it was a user or the site's owner, a twisted salesman. The next message came fast. Would you like to buy something? He laughed, a nervous edge to it, and typed back, Sure, let me have a look. Joking, of course. The reply chilled him. Great, I'll come by your place and you can look at some of our products. His stomach dropped, the room spinning, and he typed frantically, No, I was kidding. Not necessary. The response was immediate. I can joke too. The words a dagger in the silence. And Ethan's blood ran cold, his fingers fumbling as he closed the browser, the screen going black. He told his friends on Skype, Chris's laugh, Sam's, Dude, you're screwed. Tara's, that's messed up. And they joked about it, discovering the site was based in New York City, a mere 5-hour drive, making it creepier. The fear faded with their banter, and Ethan went to bed, Max at his side. The night quiet, the fog outside a distant threat. He woke late, home alone, his parents at the grocery store to beat the summer crowds, the house still, the clock ticking past 10 o'clock a.m. His phone buzzed with texts from the group. Check Skype now. And he ran to his computer, the power button unresponsive, the screen dark. Panicking, he opened the Skype app on his iPhone, the group chat a storm of messages. His account at 2:30 a.m. had posted, I can joke, too, followed by a photo of his house, the front porch and living room window clear in the moonlight. Ethan's heart stopped, and he lifted the blinds, the street empty, but for a van parked across the road, a figure in the driver's seat, its head turning as it noticed him. Max barked, a deep warning, and Ethan's hands shook as the figure stepped out. A Caucasian man, late 40s or early 50s, with long gray hair and a pockmarked face, dressed in black, sunglasses hiding his eyes. He opened the van's back doors, pulling out a box, and walked toward the front door, Max's barks turning to frenzied howls. Ethan's pulse raced, and he grabbed Max, running to his bedroom, locking the door as the man kicked the front door, the wood splintering. Ethan Brooks locked himself in his bedroom in the modest house on Oak Street, Portland, Maine, his golden retriever Max barking furiously, the sound a desperate warning as the front door splintered under the stranger's kicks. The man, late 40s, gray hair, pockmarked face, dressed in black, had come straight from the nightmare Ethan had stumbled into on the deep web, the skin crafter's onion site that sold grotesque products made of human skin. The chat box's taunt, I can joke too, and the photo of his house at 2:30 a.m. had led to this moment. The van outside, a harbinger of terror. The box in the man's hands, a promise of something unspeakable. Ethan's heart pounded, his iPhone trembling as he dialed 911. Max's barks drowning out the operator's calm voice. "Portland PD, what's your emergency?" "There's a man breaking in," Ethan whispered, his voice cracking, Max's claws scratching at the bedroom door, the wood groaning as the front door downstairs gave way with a crash. The operator's questions, address, description, faded as footsteps echoed, heavy and deliberate, the hardwood creaking under the man's weight. Ethan clutched a collectible New York Yankees baseball bat he'd gotten at a game last year. The wood smooth and cold, a gift from his dad, now his only weapon. The footsteps climbed the stairs, slow and rhythmic, the cracks growing louder, closer, a predator's march, and Max's barks turned to snarls, his body pressed against the door, a barrier between Ethan and the intruder. The bedroom door rattled, a sharp kick splintering the frame, and Ethan braced himself, the bat raised, his breath shallow, the operator's voice a distant hum. "Officers are 3 minutes out. Stay safe." Another kick, the door bursting open, and the man stepped in, his sunglasses reflecting the dim light, his face a mask of scars, his grin wide and jagged, teeth yellowed and sharp. In his hands, the box, leather, stitched with veins visible, a grotesque parcel that reeked of decay. "You wanted to see," the man rasped, his voice a gravelly sneer, and Ethan swung the bat, connecting with the man's nose, a sickening crunch as blood sprayed. The man staggering back, disoriented. Ethan bolted past, Max chasing after him, thinking it a game, the hallway a blur as the man's stomps followed, fast and furious, the bat clattering to the floor. He slammed the front door, the wood splintering behind him, and ran to the neighbor's house. Mrs. Carter, a widow with a kind face, her eyes wide as she opened the door, Max at Ethan's heels. "Call my parents," he gasped, and she dialed, the police arriving 10 minutes later, their sirens a lifeline, cutting through the fog. The van was gone, but on the porch, 3 boxes sat stacked, their leather surfaces glistening, the stench of decay thick as the cops opened them. Clothing, poorly stitched, made of human skin, the seams uneven, the texture horrifyingly familiar. Hargrove, a gruff deputy with a gray mustache, led the investigation, his face pale as he examined the boxes. "Serial killer," he said, his voice low. "Hunts through the web. Tracks kids like you. Killed 3 already, all your age." Ethan showed them the website on his laptop, now working again, the Skin Crafters Onion page still live, its chat box frozen on. I can joke too. The cops traced it, arresting the man, Richard Skinner Voss, a 40-something recluse with a closet of human skin suits, his apartment a shrine to his victims. He tracked Ethan through his IP, a digital predator, and was sentenced to life. But the boxes stayed in Ethan's nightmares, the man's grin a shadow in his mind. Ethan's parents blocked most websites, the laptop a forbidden relic. But late at night, in his new room, he'd hear it, a faint tap, the creak of leather, the man's rasp whispering through the fog. You wanted to see. Max would growl, his hackles raised, and Ethan kept the bat close, checking windows, the Portland fog a reminder of that summer day. The deep web had marked him, a merchant's visit that lingered, a terror in the digital dark that wouldn't let go.